Sometimes we spend the majority of our life using something without actually realizing what it does to us. So in this video, we're going to look at my relationship with technology as a child and how that has affected me now as well as back then. Hi there friends, thanks for checking out my channel where we focus on self-improvement, productivity, and work towards becoming better versions of ourselves. Ever since I was pretty much a small kid, I've always had technology accessible to me. I was always very intrigued with it and I just loved checking it out. Mostly because of, video games. So it really got me thinking like, how did this actually affect me as a child? How does that affect me now growing up with this stuff? I would like to preface this by saying that, this is only my experience and my interpretation of my experience. And I know that there are lots of other people that have very different experiences. And so I'm not trying to say that this is universal in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying this is what I experienced, or my interpretation of what I experienced. I do know that there are tons and tons of benefits to this, and a lot of my engagement with technology as a child has, made me into who I am now, which is, a YouTuber and like posting tons of stuff all over social media. And that's awesome. There are tons and tons of benefits, and I will go into that at some point, but for this video, we're mostly focusing on the negatives. As a child, I don't think I really tapped into those benefits in many ways. Like, it wasn't like I was, watching YouTube and like taking notes about Slipgator on, how he was such a good, gaming YouTuber. Like, nah, it was purely for entertainment's sake. The first way that I've noticed technology affected me was it became a pacifier. And what I mean by this is that my role of engagement with technology wasn't one of learning and growth. Like, kind of like I said earlier, it was purely for entertainment. And what ended up happening is it became a way of coping and a way of avoiding painful things in my life. And one of the most shocking realizations of this came to me when a lady in our church congregation actually passed away when I was fairly young. And my first initial reaction was to try to numb and dull that pain by turning to technology and games and whatever else to distract me. And that kind of woke me up a little bit. Like, it was like, wow, like, did I really just do that? Like, and like, time passed enough time passed during that whole process that I felt like I didn't really actually take the proper amount of time to think or to process what actually happened. Like, what am I feeling? How do I react to this? How do I, step in and help my friend through this? And like all these other things. Like, I felt like I just kind of smoothed it all over and tried to just jump into life after that. And this is really, really hard to avoid even now. Like I said, that the pattern has built up for so long that even now, awkward situation, pull out your phone, look at social media, get little dopamine rushes from that. It'll make you feel better. You want to procrastinate from homework? No problem. There's always video games, or, argument, or, maybe you missed a promotion or your boss yelled at you or whatever the case may be. There's always something to turn to. And it's, like I said, it created a little bit of a pattern for me that wasn't very healthy. And it's not just the fact that, I wasn't addressing the issue. It became a dependency, and it became one of the best ways for me to cope with things was just kind of by smoothing it over and letting technology kind of numb the pain or distract me for long enough that I didn't really feel it anymore. And then eventually what can happen is, if it goes for long enough, that can become your only coping mechanism and the only way that you can deal with failure and disappointment. And that's pretty scary when you get there. I experienced that for a little bit, but as I got older, I kind of was forced to go without it for a little while, and it kind of forced me to engage with my surroundings a little bit better and to work through things instead of just escaping. The second way technology affected me was it created a fear of missing out. The thing with the invention of the internet is that there's always something that you have not seen. So, for example, if YouTube no longer allowed anyone to upload any videos and you tried to watch all of them, it would take you around 60,000 hours to watch all the videos on YouTube. That's just insane. And that's only YouTube. I mean, don't even mention Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and TikTok. Like, that is wild to think about. So there's always something that you haven't seen, always something you're missing out on, always something that your friends are seeing that you're not. And it just, that cycle just goes and goes and goes. When I was younger, this was really bad for me because one of the things that I would do is, I would play games that would like run in the background even when I wasn't there. And so when I wasn't playing the game, in my mind, I knew there was things happening on that game without me that I couldn't do, and like certain deadlines on there. And so like it became a serious Like if I missed it for a day, it was horrible. Like I felt like I was seriously missing out on things. Or take for example, I followed like 5 to 10 YouTubers who would like make daily videos. So, you know, you miss a couple days and all of a sudden you're like way behind on stuff. And even going a few days without it didn't really fix anything. It didn't like snap me out of it, because then it just took a lot longer time to catch up. The third thing, delay of gratification. Technology and media has a way of squeezing itself into every aspect of our lives, and having it as a young child sort of drilled into my psyche that if I wanted to be entertained or if I wanted a distraction, I could pretty much have it instantly. Lacking the ability to delay gratification and distraction and entertainment, I basically just learned that I was just jumping from one cheap thrill to the next. And even now, that's something that's still kind of drilled into me, and it's hard to navigate sometimes because there's always something there, and it just like it's right there at your fingertips. So like your natural instinct is to just plunge right into it. Like, I mean, why wouldn't you? It's fun, it's entertainment, it's enjoyable, and it's also kind of mind-numbing, which is, yeah. And it's just really hard not to look at the next quick thing, the next quick fix, because everything is so fast-paced. And I think that's part of the reason why mindfulness and maybe say meditation is really taking hold on people, because it's a way of forcing them to slow down and to stop jumping from one thing to the next. Like the saying in I forget the author's name, but he wrote the 10% Happier book on mindfulness and meditation. And he says, like, you know, people are so used to jumping from one thing to the next, they can't even taste the food in their mouth because they're like scraping their plate trying to get the next bite. Like they can't even enjoy what they're doing because they're looking for the next thing. And I am completely guilty of that. Like everyone has done this, I'm quite positive. And yeah, just learning how to stop and slow down and enjoy where you're at right here, right now. Enjoy the process, enjoy whatever it is you're doing. That's a really, really important skill. And learning that, well, more importantly, the absence of learning that as a child made it kind of difficult with other things in life, like responsibility and, you know, working hard on YouTube for 5 years before I see any results. That just doesn't work sometimes, you know, when you're, 16 and you want to go viral and become instantly famous. Like, sorry, that's not going to work. It's not going to happen. If you want to do this, you have to work at it every day, patiently, and never give up. And that just kind of, it looks overwhelming to a lot of people. And I think that's because of how fast-paced the world is. Like, we can always get things, right away. We sometimes lack that drive or that patience and the endurance for things. I'm okay with grinding it out for that long because that's what I want to do. And yeah, it took me a long time to get there, but once you do, so awesome. There's so much growth and just amazingly fun thing. That's when it actually gets fun. Real quick, just want to take a second to say thank you for clicking on this video. It's pretty awesome that you guys support me in any ways that you do, whether that's a like or a comment, subscription. It really goes a long way. So I just want to take a second and say thank you. The fourth thing technology did is it kind of taught me to use deception and misdirection. And when I say deception here, I'm mostly thinking in the mindset of like, a magician where he, pulls your attention over here and then pulls the megaphone out of your ear or something. As a kid, I would do like anything to get what I wanted. And I think that's pretty universal. And since technology was like the ultimate dopamine pumper for me, I learned to dance like right on the edge of my parents' ignorance without quite straight up lying to them. At least that's how I justified it in my mind. So I would remember times of like where I'd, walk down to my dad's business where he had a computer and he had, what was it called? I think Gunmetal or something random. It was like a robot game. I'd be walking down there and mom would be like, hey, why are you going down to the shop? Oh, I'm gonna like vacuum the floor or something. And so I'd go down there, spend 5 minutes vacuuming the floor, and then the rest of the time spend playing games. So like, very misleading and not very truthful, not telling the whole truth, which is pretty much a lie. My whole drive was like to do that, to play that game, like hours and hours and hours and hours on end. And it made it really interesting because if mom would ask me to do something, like in my mind, it was like, the quicker I get this done, the faster I'll be able to come back and play this game. And so I would go do them cheerfully, normally, out of a way of like just kind of getting her off my back, or because I just wanted to come back and do this thing really, really bad. Not because I actually wanted to help or because I actually wanted to do it. It was just a way of getting that out of the way so that I could come back to what I really wanted to do. And that's not a really good way of doing things, especially as a kid. That kind of, doesn't form a very good pattern in life as you grow older, especially doing that in other areas of your life. I've heard this said before and I love it. And this says, where deception is, there is no relationship. And like with a relationship, it all comes back to truth. And if you break that or there's deception, there's no relationship. And the fifth way that technology has affected me, mistaking a hammer for an Xbox. So as I said before, growing up, my intention with technology was entertainment. Kind of like having an Xbox. The primary use of an Xbox is to play games and detach yourself from reality. And that's kind of how I view technology. And this was a serious problem, not just because it was unhealthy, but it created, I was only pretty much talented at navigating the technology in a way that would generate entertainment for myself. So like games and YouTube and videos, like all that stuff. It literally didn't even register in my brain that it could be used as a tool. Technology is a tool and it needs to be treated as such. And I didn't treat it like that. And so as I got older, it actually took a long time for me to learn how to use it properly and use it in a way that was educational and helpful. Back to my analogy, unfortunately, it's a very bad one, but it's kind of like using an Xbox for a hammer, right? It's like you use it one way and you can't picture how it can be used for the other way. And that's kind of how it was for me. And just like a hammer, if you don't know how to use it properly, it can definitely damage you. It can hurt you in ways that are hard to recover from. And I definitely experienced that side of technology as well. Did a little dabbling in the dark web, which was not a good place to be. Just throwing that out there, you don't really want to go there. Things that potentially could have had long-lasting effects on my character and who I was and learning things, I dove straight into because I didn't realize how harmful some of those things could be, or that technology was meant to be used as a tool and not as like a big giant entertainment factory. And like I said, there are so many other ways that technology has affected me, and one of the biggest ones obviously is being a YouTuber. Like that is purely from technology. That came from nowhere else. I'll make a video about that at some point, saving all those things, the benefits of technology and how it's changed me for the better. Now, hopefully while you were watching this, you thought of someone else that could benefit or would enjoy watching this type of video. If that's the case, I would really encourage you to share this video with them. Whether or not they watch it or are interested in it, that's completely up to them. It's not on you. But it's worse yet if they never have the option to hear. So with that being said, as always, stay creative, and I'll see you in the next video.